Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're doing a deep dive today on something really interesting.
Yeah.
The connection between hormones and sensitivities in autistic women.
Okay.
And we're going to be looking at the book, Cheap ABA, Unraveling the Mystery of Sensitivities in Autistic Women.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And so one of the things that really stood out to me in this book was how much our hormones can actually really influence our sensory experiences.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Anxiety levels, even things like,
Right.
digestive health.
Like, it can really impact a lot of things.
Yeah, I think, a lot of us have probably noticed these shifts, throughout our lives, maybe like during certain times of the month or during like big life transitions or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
How deeply integrated our hormonal systems are with, like, our brain and our nervous system.
Right.
These systems are constantly, talking to each other, influencing each other.
So let's get into like the specifics here.
Okay.
What are some of the key hormonal players and how do they affect autistic women in particular?
Well, one that's been studied a lot is estrogen.
Okay.
And research suggests that, like, these fluctuations in estrogen levels can have a pretty significant impact on sensory sensitivity in autistic women.
Okay.
And this isn't just about, feeling overwhelmed by loud noises or bright lights.
It's deeper than that.
Exactly. It's about how our brains process and, like, filter that sensory input at a neurological level.
Interesting.
So estrogen actually plays a role in regulating neurotransmitters, like serotonin and dopamine, which are involved in, like, mood regulation, attention, sensory processing.
So when estrogen levels fluctuate, it can kind of throw off that.
Exactly, precisely. And for autistic women who, may already have those differences in sensory processing, these hormonal fluctuations can be even more pronounced.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's like turning up the volume on an already sensitive system.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about feeling a little bit more sensitive.
Right.
It's like a much more fundamental shift in how our brains are processing information.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's so important to understand these connections. It's not about toughing it out or pretending these sensitivities aren't real. It's about recognizing those underlying biological factors at play.
Okay, so we've talked about estrogen playing a big role here. What about other hormones?
Sure.
The book mentions progesterone and thyroid hormones as well.
Yes, definitely. And while they may not have received as much attention as estrogen, they're definitely part of the conversation.
Okay.
Progesterone, for instance, is often associated with feelings of calmness and relaxation.
So when progesterone levels drop, it can make us more susceptible to
it's one
anxiety and irritability.
Yes, and this can be especially challenging, during the premenstrual phase or during perimenopause, when progesterone levels naturally decline.
Interesting.
Then there are thyroid hormones, which play a crucial role in regulating things like metabolism, energy levels, even brain development.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It is. And when thyroid function is out of whack, it can lead to a whole cascade of symptoms, fatigue, brain fog, mood swings, and even changes in sensory sensitivity.
Okay.
The book actually shares a really compelling story about a woman named Rachel who discovered that her thyroid medication was actually making her food sensitivities worse.
Oh, that's a connection I wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah, it's a great example of how interconnected these systems really are.
Yeah, let's talk more about some of these real-life examples.
Okay.
I think these personal stories can be so powerful in helping us understand these concepts.
For sure.
On a deeper level. The book also mentions a woman named Sarah.
Yes, Sarah's story is a great illustration of how hormonal fluctuations can manifest in different ways.
Okay.
She was experiencing incredibly debilitating menstrual cramps and anxiety attacks.
Wow.
That were really impacting her quality of life.
And she was able to connect those experiences to her hormones.
Exactly. Through tracking her cycle and working with a healthcare professional.
Okay.
She was able to identify a pattern of hormonal imbalances that were contributing to her symptoms.
So what did she do? Did she find any relief?
She did. Once she understood her hormonal patterns, she was able to make some targeted lifestyle changes that helped to regulate her estrogen levels.
Interesting.
She started incorporating more stress management techniques into her routine and experimenting with dietary adjustments.
And these changes actually made a difference for her.
They did. she reported a significant reduction in the severity of her cramps and anxiety.
Wow.
And she felt much more balanced overall.
That's amazing.
It really highlights the power of knowledge and self-advocacy.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It gives me hope that even if we are struggling with these challenges, that there are things that we can do
Yes.
to regain control.
Absolutely. It's not about, magically erasing all sensitivities.
Right.
It's about understanding our individual hormonal patterns
Yeah.
and finding strategies that help us manage those fluctuations.
Okay.
And that's what we're going to be exploring more in depth
Yeah.
as we continue this deep dive.
I'm excited to learn more. I'm sure our listeners are too.
Me too.
So stay tuned, everybody, because we're going to be diving into practical strategies for managing hormonal influences and reclaiming your well-being.
I love it.
After a quick break.
Sounds good.
Welcome back, everyone. Before we move on to those practical strategies,
Yeah.
I kind of want to touch on something you mentioned earlier
Okay.
about the impact of estrogen on, sensory processing.
Mm-hmm.
The book kind of dives into some of the, neurological mechanisms involved.
Right.
And I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you see, estrogen doesn't just influence hormone levels, it also interacts with key neurotransmitters in the brain.
Okay.
In particular, it plays a role in modulating serotonin and dopamine,
Okay.
both of which are heavily involved in sensory processing.
Okay, so how does that actually work?
Well, think of it like this.
Okay.
When estrogen levels are fluctuating,
Right.
it can disrupt that delicate balance of these neurotransmitters.
Mm-hmm.
This can lead to an increase in sensory input, making everything feel louder, brighter, more intense.
Okay.
It's like the brain's filter for sensory information isn't working effectively.
So for autistic women who may already have, differences in those neurotransmitter systems,
Right.
the impact of these fluctuations is, amplified.
Exactly. It's like adding fuel to the fire, so to speak.
Okay.
And this can explain why some autistic women experience those heightened sensory sensitivities
Yeah.
during certain phases of their menstrual cycle or during times of hormonal transition, like perimenopause.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not just in our heads. It's a real biological phenomenon.
Exactly. And
Right.
that's why it's so important to validate these experiences and to understand the underlying mechanisms involved. It's not about blaming hormones for everything, but recognizing that they are a significant piece
Right.
of the puzzle.
Okay, so let's talk about what we can do about it.
Okay.
I know a lot of our listeners are probably wondering, okay, this is all very interesting,
Right.
but how do I actually manage these hormonal influences in my own life?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And luckily, there are some evidence-based strategies that we can explore.
Okay.
One of the most fundamental, and this is something that the book emphasizes as well,
Mm-hmm.
is tracking your cycle.
So basically becoming a detective for your own body.
Exactly. By paying close attention to your cycle and noting any patterns in your mood, your energy levels, your sensitivities, and any other symptoms you might be experiencing, you can start to anticipate those hormonal shifts and plan accordingly.
So if I know that I tend to get more sensitive to sound during a certain phase of my cycle,
Right.
I can maybe plan to stay home more or use noise-canceling headphones during that time.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and creating an environment that supports your needs during those times.
That's a great tip. What about diet?
Sure.
I know there's a lot of talk about how diet can impact hormonal balance, but it can be hard to sift through all the information out there.
Yeah.
Does the book offer any specific recommendations?
It does. It emphasizes the importance of incorporating foods that support estrogen metabolism and detoxification.
Okay.
For example, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts contain compounds that can help the body break down and eliminate excess estrogen.
Interesting. So those are good ones to add to our grocery list.
Yes, definitely.
Are there any other, dietary superstars we should be aware of?
The book also highlights the importance of fiber.
Okay.
Fiber helps to regulate blood sugar levels, which can have a positive impact on hormone balance.
Got it.
And it can bind to excess estrogen in the digestive tract, helping to eliminate it from the body.
So we're talking about things like whole grains, fruits, and vegetables.
Exactly. And it's not just about what we eat, but also when we eat.
Okay.
The book suggests focusing on balanced meals throughout the day and avoiding large fluctuations in blood sugar.
That makes sense. No more skipping meals or relying on sugary snacks for energy.
Yeah, those habits can wreak havoc on our hormones, so it's best to avoid them whenever possible.
Got it. So we've covered tracking our cycle and making dietary adjustments.
Mm.
What about stress management?
Sure.
See how we talked earlier about how stress can like exacerbate hormonal imbalances.
Yeah.
Does the book delve into specific stress reduction techniques?
It does.
Okay.
And it emphasizes the importance of finding what works best for you individually. It acknowledges that some traditional relaxation techniques like meditation
Right.
might not be as accessible or enjoyable for everyone on the spectrum.
Yeah, that's an important point. What are some alternatives that might be more appealing?
The book suggests exploring sensory-based activities that promote relaxation.
Okay.
This could be anything from taking a warm bath with Epsom salts to listening to calming music or spending time in nature.
Okay.
It's about engaging your senses in a way that feels soothing and grounding.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
It's about finding those little pockets of peace and sensory comfort throughout our day.
And don't underestimate the power of physical activity.
Okay.
Exercise is a fantastic stress reliever, and it can also help to regulate hormones.
So even a short walk or like a gentle yoga session can make a difference.
Absolutely. It's about finding movement that you enjoy and that fits into your routine.
Right.
The book also mentions the importance of establishing clear boundaries and prioritizing self-care.
Okay.
This can mean saying no to things that drain your energy and making time for activities that bring you joy and relaxation.
That's so important, especially for autistic women who often feel pressured to mask their true selves and meet societal expectations.
It's about honoring your needs and recognizing that self-care is not selfish. It's essential.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, tracking our cycle, dietary adjustments, stress management, and the importance of self-care.
Right.
Is there anything else we should touch on before we wrap up this part of the deep dive?
Yes. There is one more area that the book explores that I think is worth mentioning.
Okay.
The potential role of supplements in supporting hormonal balance.
Oh, that's right. I'm curious to hear more about that.
Okay.
What are some of the key supplements that are discussed in the book, and what are their purported benefits?
Well, one that comes up frequently is omega-3 fatty acids.
Oh, okay.
They're known for their anti-inflammatory properties and have been studied for their potential to support mood regulation and hormone balance.
Interesting.
The book also mentions magnesium, which can help to promote relaxation and improve sleep quality.
Those sound promising.
Yeah.
Are there any others?
Yes. The book talks about vitamin D, which plays a role in regulating mood and energy levels. And it also mentions zinc, which is involved in hormone production and immune function.
Okay.
It's important to note that while supplements can be helpful, they're not a magic bullet.
Right. They should be used in conjunction with other lifestyle changes.
Exactly.
And under the guidance of a healthcare professional.
Exactly. It's about taking a holistic approach to supporting our well-being.
This has been so insightful. I feel like I've learned so much already about the intricate dance between hormones and sensitivities in autistic women. It really is amazing how interconnected all these systems are and how much power we have to influence them through lifestyle choices.
For sure.
What stands out to you like the biggest takeaway from all of this?
You know, for me, it's the validation that these struggles are real and have a biological basis. You know, for too long, women have been told to just get over it or that their sensitivities are all in their heads.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And I think that that understanding can be incredibly empowering. Like if we know that our hormones are playing a role, it gives us a starting point for finding solutions.
Absolutely. And it takes the blame off of us, which can be a huge relief for a lot of women. It's not a personal failing. It's a complex interplay of biological and environmental factors.
Yeah. And what I love about the book is that it doesn't just present the problem. It offers real, actionable strategies for managing those hormonal influences.
We've talked about tracking our cycles, making dietary adjustments, prioritizing stress management, and even considering supplements. These are all tools that can help us regain a sense of control over our experiences.
I think it's also important to emphasize that everyone's journey is unique.
Oh, for sure. What works for one person might not work for another. Absolutely. So it's about finding what resonates with you and your body.
Exactly. And that's where working with a knowledgeable healthcare professional can be so valuable. They can help you personalize your approach and navigate these complexities safely and effectively.
This raises an interesting question, though.
Okay.
If hormonal shifts can have such a significant impact on sensitivities, what other factors might be contributing to these experiences in autistic women?
That's a great question, and it's one that researchers are still exploring.
Right.
There's a growing body of evidence suggesting that sensory processing differences,
Okay.
genetic predispositions, and even environmental factors can all play a role.
It's like a giant puzzle, and we're just starting to put the pieces together.
Exactly. And that's what makes this field so fascinating.
Yeah.
There's still so much to discover and understand.
But even with what we know now, there's so much we can do to support ourselves.
Yeah. An advocate for our needs. Knowledge really is power.
I couldn't agree more. The more we understand about ourselves, the better equipped we are to navigate a world that wasn't always designed for our neurodiversity.
Well said. We hope this deep dive has provided you with some valuable insights and empowered you to continue exploring this topic.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community of autistic women out there sharing their experiences, supporting each other, and pushing for greater understanding and acceptance.
So keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep advocating for yourself. And until next time, stay curious.